is October 19th at 9 a.m. on the dot today, Danny. Good job.
Nice. I can't believe it's October 19th already.
I know it's crazy. Halloween is coming up. We should have like a
Man.
special Halloween live stream.
Oh,
Where we make everybody else dress up.
Yeah.
mhm.
Everybody else, we dress normal and we're going to dress like software developers and everyone else has to dress up like something else, like Snoopy.
There you go.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or like what you think a software developer looks like. That would be fun.
Yeah. I did a funny prompt yesterday where I prompted ChatGPT to make an image of what it thought I was based on my previous prompts. Dude, it made me look jacked,
Did
which
it?
is sick.
Whoa.
Yeah,
So you ask a lot
Yeah.
about fitness, so
I do. Yeah, but it was pretty sweet. Well, welcome everybody. We have an awesome episode today. We have a special guest here, Randall Lapointe, we have two Randalls in the house today, which is pretty cool.
yeah,
It's one of the
Ready to
most
say
common
hello?
names in the States.
No,
it is. It really is.
not at
You come
all.
across it all the time.
Yeah. But really awesome episode we have for you. Randall has been with us. I guess how long have you been in the program? I think maybe since April, something like
I
Was
that.
it
think it was
April?
the end of May when I
End
jumped
of
in.
May.
Yeah, and you're kicking
So
it, man. You're kicking ass. Like,
yeah,
for real.
so I want to share sort of because I had a call with Randall before he joined, and I want to sort of share where Randall was back then, and then we can start digging into everything that you've gone through in the past, I don't know, 5 months or so, pretty much just the summer. So I'm going to give you sort of my recollection of our conversation. I recall, getting on a call, Randall, I think you were like on your front porch. And what I saw in you was somebody who is just like defeated by your previous job. And I felt for you because that's where I think all three of us were when we got into software development. We discussed that
I
you
think
were
that's where a lot of
transferred.
people are though too, and it's a crappy place to be. It
Yeah,
is
it
horrible.
sucks. There's nothing worse than having to go to a job that you hate every day. Like there really
Yeah.
is nothing worse than that. I remember you talking about, how you had basically 1 year left that you were like, I'm gonna be a teacher for this year, and then that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. It's just too much stress. There's too much, you know, the administration, my school asks too much of me and doesn't really reward us, doesn't even care, like walks past us as if we're not even people, right? We're just like numbers and machines that work for them. And I really felt for you. And I know you've said this a lot inside the incubator, but one of the things that, you know, I try to focus on when we have these calls is not to just like push people into sales, because I want people in this program who are really committed to the idea of they're going to be a software developer. It's not meant to be some crazy sales pitch or anything like that. I
It's
want to
not
make
meant
sure,
to be a boot camp.
right,
Right.
it's not meant to be a boot camp. But I really want to make sure the people inside of our group are curated, right? Are people who are serious about this idea, who haven't just been like pitched into this, right? Because a lot of times that's what happens with online coaches is there's this amazing pitch of like, oh my God, you're gonna make millions of dollars in 3 weeks with just tiny classified ads and whatever, right? And then and the reality is that's not the truth because people don't have that drive, that motivation. And so that's one of the things that I did see in our conversation. And I'm so grateful that you joined because you've definitely been, all of our students are standout, but you've definitely put in a lot of work and put in, you've had some serious drive for this dream, and it's really amazing to
Actually,
see what
I
you've built
remember
so
when,
far and what you're
yeah, I was
building.
gonna say, I
Yeah,
remember when you started because you started right at your summer break for your work, which was, because you're
yeah,
teaching. And I just remember because like you just like it was like you jumped in like just full in the deep end, which was awesome to see too. Because I think like a
yeah.
lot of people do dip their toes in this for like a long time and never really commit. And it was awesome to see you just full on commit too, because I think it really did, it shows in your progress in the
Yeah.
past few months.
So I wanted to, before I just talked the whole time, I wanted to get an idea from you. Like, what was your mental space at that time, and what is like your real motivation to become a software developer?
Yeah, so I started. of course, I was a computer science major at first in college, and I switched to math because I didn't quite have the drive
Mhm.
when I was in my early 20s. So math was a lot easier for me. So I kind of gave it up at that point. But this past January, at the beginning of the year, I took it serious again. And for those 5 months before I joined, I dove real deep into HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And at the end of May, I was really defeated.
Yeah.
But and when I remember that call, because I got off the call, I'm like, Russell didn't try to force me to join. He kind of saw where I was, and he gave me some advice, some free. You gave me good value by mentioning Rust and data science, because
Yeah.
that's what I mentioned I was interested in. But it turns out that I do like front end and web design a whole lot. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's been pretty cool to see what you've been building. If you want to share a little bit about what you're currently working on, because I think this project is really cool and shows just the difference between a typical boot camp where you're just forced down this single path of basically copy and pasting. Let's be real.
Also,
Uh,
keep in mind too that this is from the end of May till now, and
yeah.
you are on the tail end of completing this project, basically the MVP, right? The minimally
5
viable product.
months.
Yeah, I mean it's
Yeah,
impressive.
and look, the first time when I prompted GPT about getting me a full scope development plan, I think I told you guys it told me 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember Danny saying, "Nah, you might want to give yourself a couple weeks of wiggle room." And comes to find out, I struggled with connecting I tried Flame Link, Sanity,
Hmm.
connecting it to the back end, and I did have about a week and a half, 2 weeks of just stalling and not getting anything done. But
But that's what
Yeah.
happens too when you're new,
yeah,
dude. I mean, because this is your first major project. It's
Not
gonna
even when you're
happen.
new, when you're
Yeah,
when
literally,
you're
it happens. It
experienced
happens
too, it
when
happens.
people
but
change things too. But
Russell, you mentioned a Halloween surprise.
Yeah.
I have this weekend. I'm gonna finish up Stripe, and that gives me a full week to do some more testing, some final testing, and I'm
Nice.
aiming for October 31st launch
nice.
Awesome.
for the website. So
Perfect. Maybe we can show it
e-commerce
off in the episode.
website. Yeah,
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 that'd be
can you
awesome.
explain what you're working on though in full, like
yeah.
a little bit?
I have a coworker that sells sweets locally. Actually, she sells a whole lot more than that. She has a green thumb too, so she deals with plants and all that stuff. So she's
Nice.
an entrepreneur that really does a lot of business locally. And I
Hmm.
kind of sold the idea to her. I was serious about it, but I want to say I started this project on my first commit was August 21st. So
Yeah.
within the first couple of weeks of school, we were kind of chatting, and I said, if you're ready, if you want some business, I can try to put this website together for you, not thinking about the entire scope and how long it would take. I was
Yeah.
like, I could just do this as your classroom roommate, just for free, you
Can
know.
I ask you a question? Because this is something that's happened to me a lot. I know, like when you first pitched the project, were you in your head just kind of thinking about the front end?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I think I do it all the time. It's like, oh, it'll take like 2 weeks because the front end I can picture it, won't take that long. But then you forget it's all the back end stuff you have to
Yeah.
connect and configure.
Yeah.
And then it took a lot of time for me to picture, like halfway through the project, I was still going back and saying, oh, I want the things in the nav bar to look this way, or oh, like I was constantly changing up. So I think that's going to be something that gets better with every project I work on. I'll
Mhm.
be more rigorous, I guess, in my planning from the beginning. That'll
Yeah.
also save me some time.
Yeah. Nice. So this is
So
like,
Randall,
go
was
ahead, Rand.
Yeah.
oh actually, were you going to ask something about the same thing about this project?
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead though.
Okay, so I mean, a lot of people when they hear about computer programming and web development and things like that, they say, "Oh, I could never do that because I'm not good at math." So you found some success pretty quickly. Do you think that was dependent upon your background?
Well,
Programming.
I actually jotted down a couple notes about that because I kind of anticipated that question coming.
Hey, now
I
you guys plan this.
Did you
yeah,
have these?
The
Let me
check's
check
in the mail.
questions.
you know, I will say a lot of people, and I thought this way too, because of course, when you go through a computer science degree, you do have to take most of the same math classes, the calculus, the linear algebra, all the classes the math major has to take. But working through this project, I haven't used any math outside of understanding how variables and functions work
Man,
and conditionals. So I mean, but to really answer your question, Randall, I think to understand math and to solve math problems, of course, you have to be a problem solver. So I think my natural curiosity and understanding how to look for different types of solutions. I tell my kids all the time that you know, do you understand the way I explain this problem? Because if not, I know 4 or 5 other ways to explain it to you to get you to understand it. And I think web development is just like that. There's always 10 different ways to do something. So, and that,
Yeah.
I think that really kind of set me ahead.
I'm glad you brought that up because I had a background coming into development from philosophy, but I studied a lot of logic, which is like, basically it's algebra, if you want to think of it that way with symbols, just how we think. And, it helped me a lot, not because I understood logic, but the problem solving part of it. And I think that's really it, right? If you are already naturally a problem solver, you like creating things, it's definitely a field for you, and those skills will let you can leverage them heavily, right, for
And
your success.
then on the creative side, like I
Yeah.
never envisioned myself to be a creative person. I was always analytical, and that's why in
Mm.
the the first action call Russell and I had, and he'll probably remember this. Like I thought I wanted to work as a developer for a company,
Yeah.
and do data science because I always thought of myself as being analytical. But now when I'm putting together a project, I'm starting to see that I do have some creative juices that
Yeah.
just haven't been tapped
Yeah.
Yeah.
until this point.
I think
And
one of the other things that I noticed that maybe you haven't seen yet, but one of the things that I think will help you a lot as a developer and building a business as a developer and a web developer in particular is that you're really good at speaking with people, right? Like you know how
yeah.
to network with people around you and like you're genuinely interested in what other people are doing around you, which I think is a skill that a lot of people are lacking, and particularly in software development is a lot of software developers don't know how to communicate effectively. They don't know how to actually show interest in other people. And that goes a long way, right? Because I know this is like your first your first client, but I know you have some that are like lined up ready to go when you're done this as well, which is pretty awesome, right? In only, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, you already have probably more work than you know what to do with at this point. And that's awesome because it gives you the opportunity to be selective and also charge what you're worth, right? Because now you
Yeah.
have many people who are ready to pay you. And so the people who are being cheap, you can just say, hey, I have other work to do.
And he has this great example that he can show off
Yeah.
too of a full-fledged ecom site. That's awesome. I mean, it looks
Yeah.
really good. Yeah, I think that'll
I
pay off a lot.
remember one of my mentors was the CTO of a company that he used to work for called Zero Bounce. And he's been working in software for like 50 years. Like this dude's OG software developer. And I remember I showed him my app and he was like, this is amazing because you just came out of a boot camp and you've already shown that you can do a front end, a back end, API, payment integration. Like he's like, basically, you've shown everything that any employer would ever want to see. You can do all
For
of the parts
enterprise
of
scale.
building.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, all you need to do at this point is just keep building and like jobs will come to you. And I can only give you the same advice is that this project, you've shown that you can build a really nice front end, connect that to a CMS that a client can use, which is pretty awesome too, right? Like it's not some you have to use some code to actually input products. Like she has
And,
her own dashboard, and now you're integrating that with Stripe, which is an API and a payment processor. I mean, now you can not only make products for other people, you can make your own products and start charging people and make passive income, which is pretty
And
awesome.
oh, it's funny too, because before we got on this call too, I was saying like one of the cool things is like I think you learn this quickly too as you get into projects that are above your scope. Like this one was initially like it was outside of your like comfort zone, but you've stuck through it. Like that's one of the things I love about development is if you just persevere, you can do anything. And like everything's possible. And you found that out so many times too, because like all the things you've done to also just help people with work, getting things done quickly at your job
Yeah.
has been stuff that you never would have thought of before and they never thought of. And you've made their lives so much better. Even if you want to touch on some of those, I think are good things too, just to show how like it's
Yeah.
been incorporated in everyday life.
Yeah, we always use like one of my coworkers was he'd actually pull reports from Edgenuity and like make his own spreadsheet. He would, you know, set up the columns with formulas to calculate certain certain data that he needed. He would put conditional colors on the columns. And I'm like, man, he spends a good full work day doing that
Yeah.
one spreadsheet. And I'm like, man, let me see if there's a way that I can help out. And I didn't even know that Google Apps script was a thing. So I
Hmm.
said, script, that sounds like JavaScript. I know a little JavaScript. Let me go see if I can kind of automate some of this. And now, you know, he has every time he opens that spreadsheet, he has a little UI, a button in the UI
Hmm.
that says send Edgenuity reports. And once he presses that button, it pulls the data, it creates his spreadsheet, it sends customized emails to every student and every parent. And, you know,
Dude,
it's
that's
just
so
a click
crazy.
of a button. And you see him walking around. I know he grabs more snacks now. Like he comes in our room and grabs more snacks. So that kind of is not really a benefit, but
Need
I
to
can
make
But
tell
him
he has
a
more time on his
fitness
hands.
app
But
next.
yeah, but you freed up so much of his time though. And it's like an annoying task too. Automating that kind of stuff, dude, there's also a lot of value there too, because that's also avenues to make money later too.
Oh,
All those problems that you can solve for people that just are a waste of time in their day can be
yeah,
such a
we
huge
were,
benefit.
for every student that was behind, we would have to like we would have to pull their click on their individual report. We'd have to copy a template, paste it into an email,
Yeah.
find the parent email and copy and paste that, and like leave a space for the name and then type in each student's name and send like a, you know, 60 to 70 emails. And now it's just one click of a button.
College has got like that too, dude. It's so much, you're doing so much like base with these kids that are behind all the time, and it takes up so much time. It's insane.
Yeah. You made
You
me think
mentioned
of, sorry.
again.
Sorry. I just wanted to say one
Again,
thing. You
yet
made me think
again.
of this sort of this case study that I was looking at when I was first getting into software development of this guy who owned a software. It was just a Chrome extension, and he made like $20 million a year off of this simple Chrome extension, right? And I think this is one of the most overlooked avenues or things about software development is everybody goes into this expecting in order to be successful as a software developer, I need to go work for Google or work for Apple or Facebook or whatever. And they get discouraged because once they start applying for these jobs, they realize there's a lot of competition for these jobs. And what I think one of the coolest things is that people don't realize you can actually make a lot more money sort of cutting out the middleman and doing some of the software work on your own. And one of the things that I
And
think
being your
about
own
is,
boss, not being trapped and going to work and
yeah,
stuck at work and working when you get home because these companies demand it, you know?
yeah. And one of the things that I think a lot about is, um, you know, small pain points that people have throughout the day are usually the best passion projects that you can make a ton of money on because number one, they're very niche down, right? So the person who has this problem, it's a very specific problem, and there's usually not a solution. And I think a lot about when you were doing I think it was like continuing education throughout the summer, and you had to go through these videos, and you're
The
like, I
next
used to
button.
just like they're mindless videos, and you're like, I used to just play video games and like wait for the video to end to click next. And in one of our sessions, we just like built a little JavaScript script that literally you just like press in the browser and it does that for you, right? And I thought that was so cool because it's a problem that I never would think about, right? Because I don't have I've never experienced that because I'm not a teacher, right? But I talk about this a lot in the action calls that I do is, a boot camp tries to force you down this one path of, okay, you're going to be a MERN stack developer, right? And they're like, just copy and paste this code for the next 6 months, and then you'll be a developer and
Put these
Google will hire
75 technologies
you.
and
Yeah.
all these cloud things on your
Yeah.
resume, and
And
good luck.
I think the thing that they miss the most, the way they miss the mark is that everybody has their own specific zone of genius, right? Like I really love web development a lot. I'm really good at front end development. I can also do back end development, but like that, my zone of genius is front end, right? Randall is cybersecurity. Danny is web development, Python. Like we all have our own niche, right? You're a math teacher. You bring all of this knowledge of being in that environment into this. And there's so many avenues that, if we focus on your zone of genius, you have so much more that you can offer and so much more that you can actually pull out of the marketplace in terms of income because you have these very specific experiences. So
We leverage everything in your past, right? I think people forget that, like, because that was one of my biggest fears when we did this too, is like, I'm starting over, right? I'm giving up a career that I spent a
yeah,
lot of time on that I hate, but but I'm starting over, and that's scary. But you're not starting over. You have 40 years or whatever of life experience, right? That you're bringing.
I'm looking at Bryce. He said he's a MERN developer. His boot camp says so.
Exactly, right? But
Yeah,
I think that's one of the things we forget that we can leverage all this, and that's also where we're going to find these opportunities too, to make
yeah,
money on our own too, and
and
build passion projects. They're going to come from our past experiences and things that we struggled with and things that we hated.
yeah. I wanted to like, go ahead, Randall.
Randall, go.
Okay, so you mentioned that you took on some projects that were difficult for you, that you didn't really feel like you had the skill set to do. And I think that's a big stopping point for a lot of people because people want to be developers. They may have studied different languages for a while, but the idea of taking on something that's outside of your wheelhouse is really scary because you're like, what happens if I get stuck and I can't do this? So what was it like for you and how did you deal with that?
Yeah, well, first speaking about that, I'm glad y'all kind of pushed me into that direction of getting outside of my comfort zone because I would still not even be finished with the curriculum for the Odin project. And it was kind of just taking me through a whole bunch of technologies I haven't even used yet in
Hmm.
this e-commerce project. So I would have been learning a whole bunch of things that wouldn't have helped me complete this project. So I'm I'm just confident, and you guys kind of point us to the tools that are going to help us. And like I tell everybody in the group, um, I when I first started this, I was terrified of breaking things. And
Yeah,
we all were. The first time
Yeah.
we got into React and started playing around with Next, our minds were blown and we were scared to touch anything. Because if you
yeah,
touch something, like if you don't close something or something's missing, like the whole web page, like it breaks and you get this red error message that I was terrified of.
yeah,
Now, and Randall, I've seen tons of screens that says, here's an error, you need to fix it. Sometimes you get direction on, where to go or where to look to fix it. Sometimes you spend 2 weeks trying
yeah,
to find the error, but I'm confident now that I know where to look in the console. If I don't know, I'm gonna explain Chat GPT and use those tools. Like, this is what I'm trying to do. This is what the error message is. Can you explain how I can overcome this obstacle? And like, I've been able to solve pretty much every challenge I've encountered with this
yeah,
project. And it was completely over my head. It even more so than I thought. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
y'all kind of knew y'all could see the path ahead in the project. I really couldn't. And once I got to the back end, I really understood what y'all were talking about.
But I think that's the point. Like, we knew it was over your head, but at the same time, it's also not, because you're also almost done it. Like,
yeah,
we knew you would get there too. And like, I think one of the things you bring to the table, and I think this also probably comes from a teaching background, is that You also use tools really effectively, like ChatGPT. I noticed that you go to
Yeah.
documentation a lot. You do the things you're supposed to do when you have problems, which is research, right? And figure out, well, there's got to be a solution because other people do this. So what's the solution and how do I find it? Even when you were struggling at first with sanity and the connection of everything,
Yeah.
then you went and tried a different, like, that's a great practice though, is trying these tools out because in the future, then you know, okay, this is the best combination of stuff if I'm doing something like this, right? And you learn that by breaking. And by
Yeah.
struggling through it sometimes. That's the best way.
I talk like I use this analogy a lot, and I think it's a good one. I've used this with one of my kids recently where we were talking about, she wanted to do something, but she's like, I don't know everything I need to know to do that.
Yeah.
And we live in South Florida, and I was like, look, I want you to imagine that we were going to drive to Disney World, right? If we waited at the house until every light turns green, all the way to Disney World to leave the house, we'll never actually leave. We'll never get there. And that's the same thing with software development. Like if you wait to know every single thing that you need to know to complete a project, to even start on it, you're just never going to get there. What you need to do is you need to just start and then you hit a roadblock and you
And
and you deal with it, right?
and here's the cool thing about that is, now when I'm thinking about my next project, of course I was mentioning some, that big educational app I wanted to
Mhm.
make, which would have taken 7 to 9 months. I'm like, no, I had a good 10-week project with this one. I want this one to be short. And now I'm seeing when I try to brainstorm ideas for my next project, 80% of the projects I have an idea for are way less complex than this
Yeah.
e-commerce. So I'm
Oh
not going
yeah.
to near the struggles I did for this one. So
Yeah.
You
that's
know
good.
I
it's
have to say
awesome.
this too really quick is one of the things that I do I just want to like commend you on is that a lot of times you'll come to one of our sessions and you're like, I have this problem. And I'm like, okay, let me help you with that. And you're like, no, no, no. You're like, let me solve it on my own. Like, you don't actually like, you want the community, which is amazing. And you want sort of just like a piece of, or like a direction to head in. But I think that's really cool that you take that on as like, I don't want the answer. I want to figure it out on my own because you know the value in that. And I think that's really commendable. Like it's something that shows you somebody who's really taking this seriously and has a little bit higher understanding than just somebody who's just coming into it and is like, I want all the answers just handed to me so that it's just fixed,
Give me
right?
the code to
I'm
copy and
willing to
paste,
go through
right?
that
So that
struggle.
it works perfectly. I mean, that's basically it. But no, seriously, and I think what's cool is like you've been talking about like your whole time with us, you've just been basically building projects. And that's the way to go because look, in the future, even if you encounter technologies you don't know, you have all the skills now. You
Yeah.
understand how all these things work together. You understand how they communicate, and that's really all you need. Other languages, other frameworks, dude, you have documentation, you have AI to help you with that, to explain things.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out. I mean, everything can be figured out. And I think that's what's such a cool, you are really a shining example of that, I think, too, in that respect.
Yeah, it's really cool. I wanted to open it up. If anybody who's watching has any questions for Randall or for us, feel free to throw them in the comments. The other thing I wanted to do before we end today's call is give away access to our web dev Kickstarter.
Woo.
And I don't know if you've gotten a chance to go through that, Randall. I think you've been working hard on this ecom site, so maybe not. But for
Yeah,
anybody who's
when I do, I'm gonna make sure I try to use some of my framework skills.
there you go. So yeah, because it's in vanilla HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So by all means, turn that into a Next.js app or whatever you want to do with it. But for anybody who's sort of watching and is like, or listening, I guess, and is kind of curious, like where to get started. I know there's a lot of people who are just brand new to coding, who have an interest in this, who've just, got that itch. One of the best things, that you're going to want to do if you're interested in web development is obviously learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. They are the core of web development. And we've put together a nice little mini course called the Web Dev Incubator. And I should really just call it a course because it's not that
It's a
mini.
Kickstarter.
Yeah,
The
I'm sorry.
Kickstarter.
Sorry. Yeah, the Web Dev Kickstarter, not the incubator. They're a little confusing, I know, but the Kickstarter is a course. The incubator is our coaching program. Um, But we put together this web dev Kickstarter. It basically takes you through understanding the basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
I would
Um,
say everything you need to know really before you move on to frameworks. It covers everything.
yeah, it really covers a lot. So if you guys are interested, you have about 10 or 11 more days to get it half off, which is pretty cool. You can just go to codenoobs.io/courses, and you can join there. It's, you purchase it one time, you have access forever. And it walks you through, the education, understanding what these technologies are, how they work. And then we do code alongs. And at the end, we do a really cool Chrome extension project where we build basically like a Pokedex. Like we build a Pokemon card that sits in your browser, and every time you open this Chrome extension, it pulls live data from an API. So you not only get experience with those three technologies, but you also start to understand how data moves around the internet, which is really important to understand as a web developer. So if you're interested in that, codenoobs.io/courses. And we're also going to give away free access to that for one lucky person who's been commenting on my post from earlier this week. Thank you all for commenting on that. And I do want to read some of those as well if we have a few seconds, but I'm seeing that somebody wants to maybe say something. Go ahead, Randall.
Well, I actually had an idea because I was working through that project, and it's quite incredible, and it's broken down into a few different videos. So I
Yeah.
was thinking it would be really, really awesome because the first video you go over the entire project, what it's going to be, and then you kind of get started in it. So it might actually be super helpful if we made that available on our YouTube channel, just the first
Yeah.
video, so people
I think
could
we could
dip
do
their
Oh
that.
feet
yeah.
in, see exactly what we're doing, and then if they're interested, they could find the rest of it at codenoobs.io/courses.
Yeah,
And build
absolutely.
up to
Let's
that
make
point.
that
Yeah, and build
happen.
it. That's a good idea. We'll add that today.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know, we do have a YouTube channel as well where you can watch these live videos. They're posted a little bit later, but you can still watch them there. We've actually had somebody recently joined the Web Dev Incubator directly from YouTube. They're not even in this Facebook group, which is pretty cool. But we're going to continue to post more content in there. You can just look up Code News in YouTube. I think everybody knows how to use YouTube at this point. But I want to read some of these comments because I think they're really awesome. The prompt that I had here was, what is your best advice for new web developers? And I think this is some really incredible advice that everybody's given here. So I'm going to read through, a couple of these really quickly. If you guys have any comments about them, feel free to share them. And then we'll just do a random selector to see who wins. Does that sound good? You guys
Sure.
have any like final comments, questions, anything before I get into this?
I just want to say thanks so much for joining us, Randall.
Yeah,
You
Yeah.
thank
always
you.
make me feel like I'm not working hard enough because
I
it's
know.
like
Dude, me
it's
too.
crazy the
I
amount of
feel the
stuff that
same
you
way.
get done.
I'm like,
Yeah.
damn.
I'm like, okay, I got to learn more so that I can teach Randall more stuff, but he doesn't even want to learn it from me. He wants to learn it on his own. So I'm like, all right. No, it's awesome. It's really cool to have the community that we've built because I think, one of the things that we were discussing this before the call, one of the things that we really saw in our boot camp is that a lot of people didn't take it seriously. They didn't have the drive and the motivation. And I have to say, every single person who's inside the web dev incubator has this next level of drive and motivation. And we
It's
all
also the
encourage
community
each
that
other.
does that, though. That's what I think it
Yeah.
is. The community encourages it, man. Because, like, I was saying before we got on, like, I've had a hard week, and like, just like the Telegram group, seeing the conversations there, it motivates me and makes me feel better when I'm struggling, and helps
Yeah.
me, get back into doing things. Because it's just great to see everybody so engaged and so excited about making their lives better, which is awesome.
Yeah. It's
Like,
really
you don't see
inspiring.
that a lot ever.
No, it's really inspiring, and it puts me on my feet all the time too because I'm constantly like, how can I provide more value for these guys? Like I feel like they're putting in so much work and I need to do more. So it's really awesome. I really appreciate everybody who's inside the incubator and
And
inside of our
if I
Facebook
could just
group
add
too.
one more thing, like for
Sure.
anyone, you know, thinking about is this going to provide a lot of value to me? Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm really, really tight with my money. And Russell knows that from the first call. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know if even though it wasn't a whole lot and it's well worth what I'm getting from it. I was like, I don't know, I'm gonna have to get back to you. But I even told all of y'all, I feel like right now I can probably just go on my own and save some money by not
Yeah.
being in the incubator, but I'm gonna stay with y'all all 12 months just to make sure I have that community. And I'm always learning something new from someone else in the group. So, that
Yeah.
provides a lot of value there.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you, Randall. Appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things where I constantly feel like, am I providing enough value? But I know you guys get so much value. And it's interesting to me because when we first built this, I really thought the most value that people would get out of this program was the course content, like the videos. And I was like, I really have to make all these videos. And I've come to see that I think the most value that people get out of this is our live calls and the community, right?
Yeah.
It's having that access 24/7 to be able to contact other people who are in the same place as you, who are just as motivated, who are happy to jump on a call or assist you with anything. I mean, I know like I know Chris says this a lot. Chris Edwards, who you see in the comments there, he says this a lot. Is he's like sometimes he doesn't feel as motivated to code until he's solving somebody else's problem, and I
Yeah.
think that's like a very common thing, and it's part of the why this works so well, right? Because sometimes when we do something over and over and over again, and we're stuck in our own sort of like rut for a long time, it gets hard to continue, down that road. And so having other people who are doing the same but slightly different things actually inspires you a lot because you learn a little bit. Like Bryce is working on Python right now, and he's sort of the only one in the group who's like doing Python, but I know he gets a lot out of yeah, he said the Telegram is incredibly valuable, right? Because you get to just communicate with other people, even if they're working on Next.js
Or
or
even if it's just like you're just struggling and you just want
yeah,
to vent to people, it's there. And I think that's helped people a lot too. Like it is such an awesome community. And I am, that's like I don't know, I'm so proud of it because I think it is really amazing.
yeah, absolutely. All right, so let me get into some of these comments. If you guys do have any questions about the Web Dev Incubator, we're always here for you. You can actually schedule a free action call with myself or Danny or Randall, and we will get on the phone with you and just discuss sort of your journey, where you are as a developer, and help guide you a little bit, and see if the Web Dev Incubator is a good fit for you. And again, there's no pressure there. We want people who are really motivated, who are really driven. It's not like we're not trying to get as many people as possible into this program like a boot camp. We really want people who are dedicated and who will take this seriously and add meaningful value to the group. We're not trying to steal anybody's money. So with that, let me read some of these comments because there's been a lot. I'll say this. There's a lot of lurkers in the group. Let's just be real. There's a lot of you lurking out there. And one of the reasons why I did this post is because I wanted those lurkers to come out of the shadows and show their face a little bit, tell everyone, some advice that they've had. Because I know there's a lot of people working hard behind the scenes. So here's some of the advice that people have said. So Troy Meyer says, don't reinvent the wheel. 99% of the time, someone has already made something that will do exactly what you want. It's fine to learn how to do it, but there are many open source plugins that you can use to rapidly implement what you want. I would agree with that one. Mark Bauer, also build pages and try new things, get used to the structure. Zachary Young, as a new developer myself, the best advice is to practice and mess with existing code, learn how it works. Delator Andres, sorry if I messed that up. As you are learning to code, have a notebook with you that you can write down everything so you have double understanding. And when you need a quick cross reference, you'll always have it by your side. I know Randall does this a lot. I always see you like writing notes and stuff on the side there. So also, when you are learning, keep a folder with all the projects you learn for examples of what you learned so that you can have a visual and written example. So that's a really good one as well. Chris Beggin says, I find myself learning the hard way. What Delator said above, it's almost impossible to retain everything you learn in your head. Writing it down both reinforces memory and gives you a context for your brain to understand when you need to refresh yourself on a concept or a process. Yeah. When you're doubting yourself, remember that 90% of the time it's probably a typo and you know more than you think. Yep.
That's a good one.
Definitely true. CJ says, lean into community. Absolutely. There's always a different angle and different solution. We just talked about that. There's no one right answer, even as even as something as simple as centering a div. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. There's multiple ways to do that. Diane says the best ways to remember code is to practice it. Yep, absolutely. Don't just watch tutorials, build projects. Absolutely. You have to do that stuff.
And unique new projects, I would add too. Like it has
Yeah.
to be stuff that's outside of your comfort zone that's new and unique to you. Like,
Yeah, I wanted to say that too before. It was just like when I think about the boot camp and all these other boot camps, they all have you do the same projects. And when you go to find a job at
like
the end
ours,
of
like
it,
build a website from 1995.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
dude, so bad.
But like they all do the same, like let's do a to-do app or whatever, right? Like all these tutorials, even the ones you find on YouTube, are all pretty much the same thing. And one of the cool parts about this program is we're not forcing you down one of those roads. It's like you do something that you're passionate about, like what Randall's doing, right? You're building an e-commerce site for a cupcake business, basically. Like how when you go to talk to an employer, that's a very unique thing. They're going to get 10 other people who are like, I built a to-do app. And then they have you who built like a cupcake e-commerce site, right? So it's totally different. Randall says bump. Giveaway coming soon. Melissa Usher says bugs are good learning opportunities. Don't let them discourage you. Instead, be grateful for the opportunity to strengthen your problem solving muscle. Absolutely. There's so many here. Let me see. I'll just throw a couple in there. Um, Robert Tamez says anything worth doing is worth doing poorly until you can learn it to do it well. And that's from Zig Ziglar. And I think that's super true, right? Like we don't have to be experts. The goal here is to learn new things. And the only way we can do that is by going a little bit outside of our comfort zone. I know Bryce was talking about that in the Telegram group today.
The
Yep.
definition of learning, right, is not knowing it first. And I think that's our biggest mistake is everybody expects to come in and just be like perfect. And it's like
Yeah.
it's not going to work that way. It's going to take time,
Yeah.
but you'll get there.
Absolutely. Travis Duran says, never give up. Google is an invaluable resource, as are YouTube videos. You need trigger time, though. You have to actively be coding. Yeah, absolutely. Like tutorials, following tutorials is not going to get you there. You have to actually code on your own. So there were a couple other ones. If you guys want to read them, feel free to check out that post. It's like a big purple post and it says giving free access, but let's give away some free access. So I'm gonna count how many there are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 14, 15. All right. I think there's about 15. So we're gonna do that. And the random winner is numero dos. And that is Mark Bauer. You have just won free access to the Web Dev Kickstarter. Congratulations. Reach out to
Nice.
us. Let us know that you're ready to accept and just shoot me over your email and I'll get you all set up in there. But congratulations. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. And thank you, Randall Lapointe, for
Yeah,
hanging out
thanks so
with us
much.
today and sharing your story. It's been pretty amazing to have you inside the group. Everybody in the group is really inspiring and it's just really awesome to have this community of people who are motivated for this goal and just seeing the success of you guys is pretty incredible. I mean, in less time than I think we took our entire boot camp, you've built something way more amazing than
And
what
way
we.
more valuable than
Yeah,
anything we made in the boot camp. You know what I mean? Seriously, like that's the other thing. Like it's actually a product that's going to be out in the world, not,
yeah,
hidden in files and stuff that doesn't even work.
with
I think that's
with
important.
my own wrinkles. And
Yeah.
mhm.
like when people see my websites, they're gonna know all my components are gonna be rounded. Like I'm gonna have that
Yeah,
look about my
yeah.
website. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Very cool. Thanks everyone for tuning in to another Saturday episode. If you are interested in the Web Dev Incubator, feel free to reach out to us. Why don't we do like if you want, throw the word math teacher in the comments and we'll reach out to you to schedule an action call and discuss sort of where you are. And yeah.
And
Uh,
Yeah.
and if you want to check out the first video of Kickstarter,
yeah.
write Kickstarter in the comments and we will reply with the link to the YouTube video.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a cool one. So with that, we will see you next Saturday. If you are inside the Web Dev Incubator, we'll see you in about 15 minutes. Just check out the Telegram group for the link to that. And today we'll be doing our usual and doing some code reviews and all that good stuff. So thanks again,
Awesome.
everyone, and have a happy Saturday, and we'll see you next week.
Later, guys.
Thank you.